Hello and welcome. I am Maziel, and a question that has been floating around in my mind is what would happen after the death of Abraham Lincoln? Okay, so this is about the dystopian wars and about the dystopian age setting. Now, the dystopian age setting is a divergent timeline set in the late 19th century. And in this timeline, Abraham Lincoln's assassination happened. However, it was staged. It was faked and it was staged, and everyone involved was still there. And yes, Wilkes Booth did, however, die afterwards, while taken into custody. It was the reason for this was because Abraham Lincoln believed that the Oval Office, the White House, was far too restrictive for him to be able to do what he needs to do to help run the country, and the country being the Federated States of America. So he faked his death. He planned it with Booth, and there must be other people involved as well for the night to happen. And Booth bursts into the box and shouts, "Die, tyrants!" Fires his blaster. Lincoln dies, and Booth gets arrested, dies in custody, and Andrew Johnson takes over. So all that happens, except this time Lincoln isn't actually dead. Now he's the puppet master. He is controlling the state of affairs via the shadows. Now the reason he did this is because of the amount of threats the Federated States is facing. You have the warrior nations in the West. These are the Native Americans who are trying to keep the land in the West, in the frontier. And so you got them trying to keep their land there. Down south you have the Mexicans, and you have the Confederate States, the Confederacy, who's still trying to claim, that the South will rise again, and they're doing all sorts of dodgy stuff to get that. Hannibal Hamilton is trying to raise the dead to create an army for themselves, basically zombies. So they can't, basically if you've got dead soldiers, you're going to forever have an army, because they can't keep coming back. You're going to literally have to blow them up for them to die. So you have that. And in these eastward towards the ocean, of course, you've got the Atlantic, and that's highly contested at the moment. You have the Crown there, the Imperium, not the Sultanate, maybe. And to go with this, you also got the Enlightened. Well, they're not too much of a problem. However, there are some, such as Lady Hamilton, who wish to aid people who want to fight the Union and not, and get their lands back. And of course, up north in Canada, you have the Crown as well. So the Federated States of America is completely overrun. It's completely surrounded, and Lincoln sees as behind the desk in the Oval Office, he cannot do what needs to be done. So he pretends to die. Andrew Johnson takes his role. So what happens when Lincoln dies? See, this is the big problem. He's not an elected official anymore. So is it going to be a monarchy? Is it going to be choose a successor? And how out is it going to be? So if we look, Lincoln would probably, given being a big fan of the Constitution, have an elected official as his successor. Because that would be the way he would do it. He would make sure that the next person would be somehow duly elected, but also have to be trustworthy enough to maintain the shadows. And given that he understood that this form of life is incredibly sacrificial, he has no life at all. He cannot come out openly. He cannot, to his wife and his children, he can't know he exists. And given that part of it as well, his personal life completely gone, his wife and his children thinking he's dead, would also mean that a bloodline is out of the question. He cannot pass the ruling on to his children. because for as far as they know, he is dead. It will be quite a shock, but later in life, when he's getting old, but suddenly he goes, oh yeah, I've been alive all this time, and now you're going to be, now you have to give up everything you know and love to, rule the country. So I would say it would be an elected official. It wouldn't be an elected official such as the president is. It would be a council official, someone who works alongside him, and it'd be the people he works with who would elect the next director of the Secret Service. And my thinking towards this is because, first things first, it is the sacrifice that needs to be done, but the leader cannot be open about his control. He cannot openly tell people how he's doing stuff, so he needs it all secret. Secondly, it had to be someone he can trust. Now, Andrew Johnson, he believed, was a stalwart and decent president, but he didn't think he would be up to the task of what he's doing. I'm not saying Andrew Johnson isn't aware of what Lincoln is doing. He's probably very aware that Lincoln is controlling via the background and being the shadow puppeteer, though I don't believe, like Lincoln, would not be able to continue in his stead. Now, who could it be? Ulysses S. Grant is completely out of the question. The reason for this is because he's completely he's a very angry man. He's a very emotional man, and a lot of his hatred is guided towards the Confederacy and raiders. He destroyed a quarter of Richmond just to finish the war completely. So, though he would be aware of, what, because he was a high-ranking general, what he is doing, I cannot see him continuing. However, there is someone I think would be able to. One, Robert Pinkerton. Yes, Pinkerton, we all know what that name represents. Now, and because if you go to the Secret Service posse in the Wayland Games website, it's a good thing about Wayland Games is because they do make the Wild West Exodus game, they have a little bit of lore with all their posses. And this is how the lore goes. This is why I think it's Pinkerton. Desperate times calls for desperate measures, and Abraham Lincoln believes that times of dystopian age are desperate indeed. Faking his own assassination in order to work unhindered by the demands of office, Director Lincoln now fights against the Union's enemies alongside those men and women trusted enough to join his Secret Service. Lincoln and his agents wage a war in the shadows, defending their beloved country from the threats and general public must have no knowledge about. Whatever it takes, so that the good folks of the Union of the Federated States can sleep soundly in their beds, with the assistance of his right-hand man, Robert Pinkerton. Okay, so there you go. Straight away, he is this one that Lincoln trusts the most. He also has agents Lucinda Lovelace, Camilla Blanche, Henry Cartwright, Leah Kingston, and Milo Jefferson. So he has those are the people that he trusts within his posse, and Pinkerton is his right-hand man. And this is further enforced by the game Mythos. Now, Mythos, if you don't know, is another game by War Cradle, and it also takes part in the dystopian age, but it's more based on the Cthulhu mythos. I get to use that word. Anyway, so this is about this shadow war. And it's basically, like I said, it's very much based on the Cthulhu mythos, and Secret Service is another faction within that game. And if we look at that, right in the second paragraph, we have someone mentioned again. Like I said, this is exactly the same box as the Secret Service posse, so all the models again are exactly the same. And it goes now Abraham Lincoln, with the help of Robert Pinkerton, has established the Secret Service. So Robert Pinkerton also has aided him with the actual creation of the Secret Service, which makes him very much connected to the establishment, and would be the next person I could see Abraham Lincoln handing over the reins to when he's too old, or he dies is the next person. Anyway, that is my little thoughts for the Secret Service and who takes on after Abraham Lincoln when he dies. And I hope to see this again soon. This is an experimental video. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you are interested in the Dystopian Age, if this very video got you interested, Mythos and Wild West Exodus and Dystopian Age Wars are all available in Wayland Games. And I think they're games that are well worth checking out. The models are great, and the games are fun. So if you go there, have a look. There is of course also the Forbidden Planet, my comics, my merchandise, and Patreon. But as always, rather than just giving me money, treat yourself to something nice first, and I'll see you all again in the next one. Bye bye.